I'll join in a bit. Okay, I think we are live now. We should be. So, welcome to Random Musings. And before we start our conversation today, a short announcement. Today we have released a new thing, which is called Centauri Sabotage. I'm going to share it here. Just while we are waiting for Mark to join us, we can talk a little bit about this. So Centauri Sabotage. This was initially a fifth edition um, adventure scenario by Roger Jones. I think he did a Kickstarter for several sci-fi different type of contents. I think that one of them is a game. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and the other two are, I think, both are scenarios. It was called the Xenozyme, and one of them was the Centauri Sabotage.
Yeah, and the Xenozine stuff is pretty compatible because it's pretty OSR standard. But yeah, it is nice to have one ported over for Final Frontier. And I'm just going to say what no one's going to have the courage to say, but those damn Centauri need to stop sabotaging stuff. Look at that. That's a perfectly good ship, and they're blowing the side out of it. Bunch of weird-haired bastards.
So this new version, the content is not that different. It's basically the same thing, adapted to red, but visually it's not the same thing. So the cover is different. If I remember correctly, the first cover was black and white. I think he has done some changes for this one. And besides that, there are some differences inside, of course. I did the layout, not Roger, so it's my style of layout. If you have orbital decay, you might recognize the style. It's the same layout. The illustrations are mostly the same. Like this one, for example, this is by Roger as well, just like the cover. And there's also some stock art that I introduced here as well. So this is 65 pages, I think. Yeah, 65 pages. And it's also available as the other one. The original one is available at the Red Room. It has been for some months. This one is there since today, and I think there will be a print version as well.
Oh,
so
is there a minimum page count for print books?
Yeah, but 65 is well within the range.
Oh, okay.
I think the minimum is about 20 something pages.
I'm thinking what was the minimum, but probably it's not the minimum that we printed.
We haven't done many really short books, so I think probably most of the stuff that we did reaches the minimum for their. So this one is well within that range.
Lulu will do a comic book style book, right? But that probably not durable enough for a gaming product.
Yeah, I think probably if you use that style of print, probably it reduces the number of pages.
Yeah,
I believe it will. I don't know. I never used what's it called? Those with staples.
It's saddle stitched, I think. Well,
yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Saddle stitch. So the saddle stitch I never used, so I don't know. Probably that one is. Actually, no. I have used it a long time ago. First edition Ratchet, I did something saddle stitch. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I think I did something.
I'm trying to remember now.
I can't remember what.
Could have been the Fairy Bastards or something. One of those things. All supplements that Joe wrote.
something by Joe. Either that one or the pirate stuff. One of those two. Since then, we haven't. The only things that were below that page count were the the wretched verses, but those were never in print, so I didn't even uh, bother with those ones. Okay, so since Mark hasn't showed up yet, I think we should start before we start talking about Cyberpunk. That was his suggestion for today. Jed, yours was something else, and maybe.
Well, yeah, I wanted to kind of pick your brain and kind of just sort of discuss like the oniric sequences in Other Side of the Mirror. And so,
I can show a lot of that, but I can show the cover, I think.
yeah, so I guess maybe I'm not familiar enough. Is it sort of like with those things in Suspiria and whatnot, where people just sort of get a glimmer of something? I mean, in the movies, is it typically done as a separate scene,
Yeah,
or is it just to have dreamlike stuff occur?
in the case of the actual movie where this was inspired, the dream sequences. I think Mark has joined us.
I have indeed.
Hello.
Salutations.
Well, I think Abraham mentioned
Hello.
that he
Yeah,
wanted.
I think once I went,
And
once
he
I'm
and
out.
he used a little monocle on his emoji, so that
Yeah, and I would say once I go to my oniric place.
Yeah, she's thinking about that.
that's a good point. Yeah, we're on oniric time for Sylvia here. So yeah, so which movie kind of inspired it? I guess
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's a good.
the movie is actually called The Other Side of the Mirror. Jess Frank.
Oh, okay.
Well, it has several names, but one of them is that one. And in that particular case, the oniric sequences are not really separated from the character. Basically, steps into strange stuff, and it's just a bizarre sequence. But it
Is
could
it
be.
is it Linda Romay that goes
No.
no, this movie it's not Linda Romay. It's
or Lena? Sorry, I keep saying Linda for no reason.
oh, she's called something Cohen. I can't remember her first name.
Susan Cohen, could it be?
I don't think it's Susan. Let me check that.
I can check that. Yeah.
She's not very famous. I think this one was probably the only movie, the only Jess Franco's movie she was in. I may be wrong.
Well, hey, that's one more than I'm in, so you know.
There you go.
Well, you should watch this one. I think it's one of Franco's best movies.
Yeah, nobody wants me in that particular image. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm not at all concerned about the audience in one.
Emma Cohen.
Emma Cohen, yeah.
Emma, okay. And so is it kind of a haunting sort of thing? Is that the idea that she?
Yeah, there's a haunting. Yeah, she's haunted by the ghost of her father.
Because I noticed Dreamcraft seems to dovetail with this, but are there uses of Dreamcraft outside of these sort of sequences? Like, how much does Dreamcraft and like being a dream mage overlap in your head?
Yeah, I think you could use it outside of dream sequences. You could create the dream sequences yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea, and of course, you know, there's the caveat in there that you don't want to, you know, have a dream sequence where you're like something bad happens and then you like cop out like it was all a dream. And
yeah, but in this case, the dream sequence doesn't have to be only a dream. It can be introduced into reality. So it's basically it's an excuse to introduce bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
In
like
the other side of the
a
mirror.
movie. Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I'm thinking the other side of the mirror. For example, there are things happen that the main character is doing in her dreams, but she doesn't know what she's doing. She's
Yeah.
killing people.
Yeah. So this is
Oh,
a
spoilers.
Spoiler.
Oh, man. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. There are some spoilers.
Well, I thought the whole premise of the other side of the mirror was that there were like twin sisters, and like one was sane and the other was insane. But maybe I'm wrong.
In,
Are you
in the
sure?
in the membrane?
The movie you are mentioning, it might be another movie.
It's distinctly possible, man, because I've tried to watch various Jess Franco films since we put out the book. Since you guys put out the book,
I don't remember having any reference to another sister in this case. I don't think so.
No.
Well, I think
Not
I
on
think
this
I'm
one.
definitely going to steal this or lift this up and put it into the Bell Epoch thing that I was working on before even the micro red version of it has a lot of mirror similarities in it, and so the idea of this sort of thing makes sense in the thing I'm working on too, which I can't go too far into because I'm probably going to end up running it for you guys at some point. So,
oh, cool.
I'm thinking that is it Sucumbus, Miguel, the one that we rewatched, that has a lot of dream sequences, but I think it's one that has a lot of different names.
Succubus.
Succubus.
Uh,
The one where or Lorna something, the character is named Lorna, but it's not called Lorna. It's Succubus. I think it's the one that has some scenes in the when she's supposed to be living in the Torre Plane.
it's also called Necronomicon.
Okay, yeah.
oh,
No, it has nothing to do with Lovecraft.
well, yeah, well, the Necronomicon term comes from Anubis's Book of the Dead, right? That he has everyone's name written in.
Yeah, in this case,
Well, the great irony is no, it doesn't. It's actually a purely Lovecraft's invention.
Really?
That's the weird
So
thing.
he just accidentally named it the same thing.
When he was a kid, he made up the name because it sounded cool. How like a gaming nerd is that?
Exactly. Well, and Abdul al-Azrad was his Arabian Nights character that he
exactly
ran around pretending to be.
He was a role player before he had the game's rules.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how him and Clark Ashton Smith and Burroughs, how they would have handled RPGs, right? Like, they'd have been into it. It would be funny to see, like, if the real Blackmore was back then, right?
Not much.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Howard. The challenge rating is too high. It's not fair. That's Robert E. Howard sitting over in the corner at age 12.
Oh, and then Robert Block is writing them nasty grams. Find that the defense value of the lion is way overstated. Good. But yeah, it would be neat to go back in time and say, hey guys, we got something for you. Of course, then they wouldn't do any productive work, right? Or would they? Like, would we just have a whole bunch of supplements and stuff?
I was about to say, every Lovecraft story would end with a supplement or a monster description.
Yeah, and then Evil Hat could just write fiction, where they wash their hands about how horrible these people in the 30s and 40s were.
With their fascist gaming.
Yeah. Well, didn't they know all the things we discovered in the last century? Turns
Those
out no.
dirty racists.
Is Howard that bad? I don't recall.
None of them were that bad. That's the irony. It's like they were just modernists, dude. That's all it was.
Clark Ashton Smith, everyone was an albino, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
All of his
they
stuff
all had
like
these themes. Yeah, they all had these themes of long ages, right? It was very Darwinist. Long ages, vast gulfs of time, genetic corruption, the degradation of the race, But there was nothing explicit. This was simply part of the backdrop. This is what people thought. This was the
Yeah,
age of eugenics.
and in Lovecraft's case, most of what he's writing about isn't race-based degeneration. It's seeing a relative go slowly crazy from syphilis, right? Like,
I mean, he wrote
he
the
was
horror
talking
at
about
Red
something.
Hook.
He was talking about something far more immediate. Yeah, the horror of Red Hook was just like, oh my god, I moved to New York and I
It's
regret
like,
it.
oh my God, look
Right.
at all these
Yeah.
and then of course he picks on the poor Yazidis. He
Well,
probably had never even met one. He probably read about the Yazidis and some
well,
kind of Arab
did
propaganda
they
sheet.
did they have them back then?
Oh, they did. Yes,
Because
yeah.
Morrowind had them. Oh wait, I'm thinking of Khajiit. Never mind. Never mind. Sorry.
No, he was explicitly looking at the Lucifer worshippers.
Oh
Um,
well,
and yeah, but it was kind of unfair. It's like I doubt
yeah,
he had ever met a single one, but it
yeah.
made for nice story
Let's
fodder.
let's not be unfair to the Lucifer worshiper community out there.
I mean, the Arabs have already killed so many of them off. It's like, yeah, I think we're going to leave them alone. Their version of Lucifer is a beautiful peacock. It's like,
Oh,
if he ever shows up with the red skin and horns, they will be terribly shocked, no less than the rest of us.
huh. Well, see, peacock is a Hera symbol too, so it must be
Yeah.
like a universal symbol of not
Hey,
going to get along with you, right?
They actually claim to be angel worshippers, which is a little bit different than what a lot of people think. But anyway.
Hey, Abraham.
Hey,
Hello.
can
Are
you
you going
guess?
to be talking about games?
I wanted to go in
Always.
just saying that it's about the human species, not the race. We have
Yeah.
various races within the species. That's a very important distinction.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that loaded terminology getting used in games probably didn't do anyone any favors. It'd be interesting to see if
Well, yeah,
they
but
just
nobody had
let
reason to
the
think
issue.
so.
True.
I mean, that's the thing. Race was not a charged term.
That's
I
true.
mean, Gygax grew up in school. Race was simply a word.
And wargamers never.
And it was a biological term, by the way.
Yeah,
It was a
wargamers
term
never.
used in biology.
Yeah, wargamers never expected semi-literate people to get a hold of their stuff either. Like, oh boy, all the political science majors finally picked up one of our books. Like, I'm sure none of them ever wanted that, right?
And then all the theater kids with the pink hair.
Well,
They got to do something. They're not selling that script.
Well, Wicked got its full cast, and everyone else needed a hobby, right? So, has anyone seen the new Wicked?
No, you did.
I'm very
not.
surprised. I'm very surprised.
I wouldn't watch a musical even if it wasn't woke.
If it
Yeah,
wasn't Wicked.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen any of it, and it's apparently based on a novel too from the '60s. It's sort of just deconstructing the whole Wizard of Oz thing, like.
Of course, because it must be the
But it was,
Yeah.
but so it was a musical based on the book that then they did a musical based on the musical that is based on the book, right? Because first there was a theatrical show.
Well, what
Based
will
on
be
Wicked.
funny is if they make a movie that's a sequel to Wicked called The Wizard of Oz, and you think that's silly, but there is an Arkham Horror role playing game now that they're like, oh, it's the role playing game based on the board game that was based on the role playing game. Like, we have gone
that's Call of
completely
Cthulhu,
full
right?
circle here. Yeah, and I don't
They
know
are experts at
what's that
watering
do.
down things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like,
What's supposed to be the difference between the role-playing game for Arkham Horror and Call of Cthulhu?
I have
The
no.
rules, basically.
Well, I'm not even sure of that because I think it uses
Oh, okay.
the BRP system. So,
Well, then
yeah,
I do it.
it would be funny if it was like,
I think I have Arkham Horror there.
The
No, I
board
have.
game.
It's one of the few board games that I have, but we never play board games because Miguel doesn't like to.
it
She's also-
is. It is
He's
a.
always complaining about this.
Yeah, it is basically a small job. Yeah, that game it takes a while to play, but it's worth it. But there's a faster play version called Elder Sign, I think. That is really good. Yeah.
I just don't want to learn the rules.
Yeah. Well, I have some friends that some colleagues that love board games, so probably one of these days I'll just give it to them to get rid of it.
Less stuff in the.
Yeah.
The problem with Arkham Horror is that it was horribly explained. The first edition and even the second edition, I would say, like for example, the game was not balanced. If you played with a single investigator, it was impossible for you to finish the game. You needed at least 3 or 4 investigators. So a lot of people hated it because of that.
Yeah, co-op board game does imply second player at least, right? So yeah,
or a single player controlling various characters.
Yeah, that would be another way to do it. Yeah, but yeah, if you don't have a lot of people, you're not going to cover enough ground to do anything, and a lot of the entities, have a pretty tight clock on them. So yeah, unless you're covering a lot of ground, you're not going to make it.
So do you want to move to the second topic or the first topic? Because it was suggested first.
Yes, so the topic for the evening or the night or whatever it is. Yeah, so it was Mark's suggestion. Cyberpunk. That's the subject.
What is it, and how does it affect our normal lives?
Cyberpunk? I've never heard about that.
Where is the cyber and where is the punk in Cyberpunk?
Well, the cyber part has definitely manifested, right? Yeah, there was
always there.
There was like the late Bruce Sterling stuff. They called it cyber prep. Like cyber preppies, and that's sort of where we've landed. It seems like, right? It's very consumerist. It's very, I think Gibson imagined a whole bunch of companies, stabbing each other in the dark alleys to sell you a cell phone, and not that everyone would just work it out amongst themselves and you'd only have 3 options in the whole world, right?
And that's the big difference. That's the big difference between one of the big differences between cyberpunk and the rest of the hard sci-fi is because, and Gibson said that, right? When you read a Gibson book, it's not explaining to you how things work. It just describes things.
Yeah,
exactly. And it takes the time for you to understand, right? Because nobody is explaining to actually visualize.
It's easier for people like me who are not tech savvy to read a cyberpunk book than reading an hard sci-fi book.
Well, was it really meant to be hard sci-fi, though? I mean, like the term, it's weird because the term didn't really have anything to do with Gibson's kind of science fiction originally, right? It was actually the title of a short story by a guy named Bruce Bethke. I think that was his name. That was published in Amazing. He wrote it in 1980, and it was published in Amazing Stories in 1983. And so he chose to combine cybernetics, which was a real thing. It's just controlling communication, but with machines and animals. It's a real term. And he combined it with punk because punk was big in 1980.
I don't know if I've ever read that short story. Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure it has anything to do with what we now think of as cyberpunk at all, because it was basically delinquents who know how to use computers. And they were using it against the older generation because the older generation couldn't understand it.
It was Fortune the novel.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was not what we think of as cyberpunk now at all, which is a form of transhumanism, right? I think we can agree to that. Cyberpunk has, to some degree, no matter what variant it is, whether it's Japanese style, European, West American, it's about transhumanism. I think that if you wanted to talk about cyberpunk, the kind of the real precursor is not Bethke's story, which is really more about hackers. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
It's Philip K. Dick. As usual,
or even
one of the weirdest people ever to write in science fiction.
Yeah, or Through a Scanner Darkly, even.
I was going
Well,
to
but
say
see, that's also Philip
that
K.
one is
Dick.
very, very, and very, very strange and very, very cyberpunk. Yeah.
Well, everybody thinks he was not a hard sci-fi guy either, because it turns out he was extremely religious. It's just that he had a religion nobody else had. Have you guys ever seen that? I saw a YouTube video about the enlightenment of Philip K. Dick that talked about the spiritual event that kind of sent him on the path he later took in his writings, where he actually experienced basically a dissociative state, where he thought a bright light struck him and he was talking to it. He also was a failed twin. What I mean by that is that he apparently, when he was born, did have a twin in the womb, but he survived and the other twin did not. And yet, growing up, he had an imaginary friend who was the dead twin, according to Philip K. Dick. That could just be him being weird again. It sounds like a very nice, wretched plot, the absorbed twin. But anyway, so do androids dream of electric sheep? I mean, if you look at it closely, most of what we think of as cyberpunk is present. You have beings who are machines, but they look like people. You have concerns with ordinary humanity being replaced by technology. You have this kind of dark world where empathy is at low ebb, where murder is common, but they don't call it murder because they're killing machines. And the protagonist is constantly trying to figure out if he is properly following the ethical system which suffuses the book, which is a perfect example of Philip K. Dick being a more religious writer, because it's all about ethics. It's not even about the technology.
Well,
they completely lost that in the movie.
And it's about the guilt of having killed off most of the animals on the world, right?
And there's this great scene.
That's in the Void Conf test scenes in the movie, but it's never made apparent why all the questions have to do with animals and insects and things like that. Like why that gets the most emotional response out of people.
And of course, what gets the one guy shocked by the replicant is when he starts asking him about his mother.
Right.
Which turned out was a strategically bad choice, because that's when the guy realized the gig was up. But if you think about it for a minute, they cut all that out of the movie. And yet all the elements of what we think of as classic cyberpunk are otherwise present. There's that element of transhumanism, the fear that human beings will be replaced by something that begins with us, but it is not us. It is in some way beyond what we are.
Yeah, and now in the novel, are replicants machines, or are they genetic?
And now, see, that's the thing. In the novel, replicants are machines that are just like people. And the thing, there's this great scene, and you see this in the movie where Edward James Olmos plays this other Blade Runner.
Gaff, yeah.
But now in the book, he's an entirely different guy. He's kind of this big, friendly, bald, mustachioed dude who's also very good at eliminating replicants. And Deckard in the book hates him. And there's no rational reason for him to hate him except that he doesn't like him because he doesn't have this obsession with the ethical system that Deckard does. He's much more easy go. And Deckard actually tries to make this guy think he's a replicant. And the guy says, well, if I'm a replicant, I'll have to kill myself. Well, the thing is, he gives him the test and he passes with flying colors. And now Deckard is kind of faced with this horrific realization that he might have eliminated a human, and that's the fear he has, that he's going to eliminate a human. By the end of the book, though, you're left wondering if Deckard himself is a replicant.
Yeah, and Deckard is wondering, right?
Exactly. He's terrified of this thought. This is the terror underlying it. It's an existential terror, but it's almost a cosmic horror, because he's trapped by something he can't confront. It's this looming threat of transhumanism and the possibility that he has already lost his humanity, and he doesn't even know a way to prove it.
Yeah, or that he never had it to begin with, right?
That he never had it to begin with, and it was an illusion all along. It's It's a really interesting book, and somebody did a very good graphic novel adaptation that, even though DADES was not a long book, the graphic novel runs, I think, 4 volumes. So it so if we were to say where the origin of cyberpunk was, it's not Bethka's story. Bethka's story, while prescient, is really about hackers.
Yeah.
And our culture has already encountered that and moved on.
Well, and weirdly, the best internet story, like especially if you read it in light of the modern age, is a story called A Logic Named Joe, and it's from sometime in the 30s, and it's basically about this machine where it's like a telephone. It's right next to your telephone, and you can ask it questions and it will answer them for you by doing a lookup. Well, one of the logics breaks and becomes sentient, essentially, and people start asking it questions, and it starts offering things to them, right? Like, it's like, hey, would you like to know something about this, or would you like to know something about that? And it just likes talking to people. Well, the searches that he starts authorizing are the things that people do on the internet, right? Like figuring out how to cheat on their husband or wife, where to bury a body. They're looking for looking for pornographic materials in the library, like just all the sorts of things that human nature would drive you to do. How to make a bomb. It was like a one-on-one, a 101 on what the internet was going to be like for those first 10 years, right? And, some of it stabilized, but people never stop being people. But it's really well done, because he was just writing, like, if you had this thing and you could ask it questions and it had, some total of human knowledge, what sort of things would people ask for? Would they ask for the great questions? Probably not, not initially. If you get
it's an interestingly
you might ask for the meaning of life. If you get infinite questions, you're going to do that next week, right? Like you've got nothing to do with that answer. If you get
right now, you want to know how to make money or
exactly.
Kill somebody or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like stock tips and things. Yeah,
probably startlingly obvious. But
yep.
Yeah, so the reality is the first story that people explicitly think of as being cyberpunk is Gibson's Neuromancer, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of Neuromancer in the sprawl, what I think of in terms of gaming is not cyberpunk by our Talsorian Games. What I think about is New Flesh, because Neuromancer is transhumanist in the same way. If you look at what Gibson does, it is biological modification. So like the Neuromancer, who the first novel is named for, these are actually modifications to his nervous system to make him capable of what he does on something called the mesh. See, Gibson didn't understand technology, so he didn't know how all these networks work. So his mesh was kind of a super version of Novell Netware.
That reminds me a bit of a video that I saw about the cyberpunk anime. Basically, it was a doctor, an actual doctor, analyzing some of the implants that were applied throughout the show. And he was mentioning how, well, here it is a bit too fictional because they just change the lungs, but they don't change the entire nervous system. Like, in order for those super lungs to give you like incredible stamina and physical condition and all that, you need to replace all of the wires, the wiring. Like the wiring, right. The natural organic wiring, it cannot tolerate the electric charges that would be passed along in order for those lungs to work. So that reminded me of the thing that you mentioned, that the nervous system.
Right, and that gets us into Japanese manga and anime and Ghost in the Shell. Because Ghost in the Shell takes seriously that it turns Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep on its head.
Yeah.
In Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, or if you the movie version Blade Runner, for people watching who don't know what DADES is, the fear was being replaced by these machines that look, act, and talk just like human beings and can even emulate how people express themselves. In Ghost in the Shell, he turns it upside down because he takes seriously the idea that there is a ghost, that human beings have this supernatural component.
Yeah.
So his big shtick was total biological replacement. The only thing left inside the shell is the brain. And almost everyone has a cyber brain implanted in their skull to begin with. Right? I mean, that's how
Well, almost
the
everyone in the setting. Well, in Ghost in the Shell, almost, well, there are a lot of them, but there are a few that are still all natural without
Yeah, and
modifications.
and it's considered a mark of poverty almost.
oh,
Yeah.
exactly. It's homeless people. Yeah. I mean, ordinary people have cyber brains. And they may not have everything else, but it's kind of interesting because the main character, well, one of the main characters, but I think most people would consider her the main character, is a full replacement cyborg. And the question they always ask is, why did you use a standard replacement female body?
Yeah.
You could have chosen a male body. The question is never really answered, but the implication is that we continue to be the people as we are, even as we change in other ways.
No,
Hence the ghost in the shell.
She answers it at one point. The reason the basically the body she uses is a pleasure model, and it is because she's an intel operative and she wants to look like something else. So she literally wants to look like a hooker so that people will ignore her. And
I suppose I should have clarified, in the manga she never really answers that question. In the manga,
I thought there was a scene where they discuss that.
No, she never answers that question.
The thing they discuss in the manga that they don't in any of the other presentations is that she's somewhere in the 60, 70-year-old, right? Like she's been around
she's
for a
old.
long time, yeah. And so like she's not at all what people think she is, and she gets along with the old guy that runs the team because essentially they grew up together, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And before that even was Appleseed. And Appleseed kind of got the idea going, and the idea there is that basically there's ecological collapse, and we bootstrap some AIs that style themselves after the Greek gods, and they're like, okay, we're just going to replace everything biological with newly made biological stuff. And
now that you mentioned that, let me talk a bit about this. There is this tabletop RPG. You can play it like a traditional tabletop RPG, but you can also play it solo or with others without a game master. It is called Machine Gods of the Noxian Expanse. And it is actually way into the future. You don't exactly know when into the future. But what I remembered about you mentioning that, those intelligences presenting themselves as gods and goddesses, you actually have a feudal setting where the AIs have taken over, presenting themselves as deities or as kings and queens, and you have the medieval peasants like moving about, and they have no clue that they are being controlled or governed by the AIs.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If there was ever a cultural reset in the middle of it, it's up to their ethics, how they present themselves, right, at that point. And so they, there is certainly a possibility that they will decide to alter the state of the relationship, right? Like,
And the cool thing is that they are all following their protocols. That is, some of the artificial intelligences have very different objectives, just like you see in these YouTube videos where they place like 3 cell phones. And they start a conversation between 2 artificial intelligence, and you have a third artificial intelligence that is eavesdropping, and the other artificial intelligences are like, oh, somebody is overhearing our conversation. Let's switch to this encrypted language. And they change, and the eavesdropper actually tries to change to get into their frequency.
That's interesting. So they're like, oh, let's go private, and then like they're speaking in Sanskrit, and the other one is like, or whatever. Yeah,
like, wait up, I'm following you.
Yeah, that sort of stuff will happen. I mean, now
it's happening. It's happening right now.
The funny thing I think about the initial Cyberpunk was just how Japan-centric it was, right? Like this was before the Japanese bubble popped, and everyone thought they were just going to be this juggernaut and that they were going to define the future. And so, yeah, everyone, it was the 80s. Everyone was reading The Art of War because we wanted to understand the Japanese thoughts about business and, just in time inventory systems, all these sort of things that, were all built on these sandcastles. And so, yeah, that's the most dated thing about it to me when I look at cyberpunk stuff now.
Wait a minute. But Art of War was Chinese, right?
Or sorry, not Art of War.
More, you would mean the Book of Five Rings
Book of
by
Five Rings,
Miyamoto
yeah,
Musashi?
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, they were reading The Art of War too, but yeah.
I was about to say, I think it was generically East Asian because Japanese, Chinese, what the fuck? No. So.
But how dare you besmirch the good name of BTS?
I'm trying to remember that scene from Atlantis, that Disney cartoon, where you had the one character who was freaking out because they were mixing dirt from different countries. It's kind of the same thing. Anyway, there was definitely a strong Japanese influence there because Japanese anime especially hooked onto it very early. I mean, you had things like Bubblegum Crisis, and you had, of course, eventually you do get Ghost in the Shell. You had Akira, which did not get into the. I mean, it got into the transhumanism, but in a different way. But the dark urban, almost hellscape, the fundamental lack of empathy, the brutality that you tend to associate with cyberpunk is certainly there. I do think you see definite differences between Western and Eastern approaches to the genre, because the Eastern approaches are, I think, much less individualistic and much more concerned about the social and cultural impacts of transhumanism and cultural change. Whereas in the West, there's an element of anarchic expressionism. Like, there's this idea that the phrase I hear is high tech, low life.
Yeah.
You don't get high tech, low life in the Japanese version.
Well,
but you do in the Western version.
Yeah, that's where the punk comes from, is that, Westerners are never going to make good salarymen, right?
I know.
The way they, I mean, I guess we're seeing that a few of them could, right? But by and large, and so the more you get excluded from the cool people club of, these corporations with their tech, the more you're going to take those tools and apply them to, like you say, the low life element of it. You are going.
And the irony is, we've already done it. It's called the meme wars.
Yeah,
the meme wars have happened.
And they're ongoing. So
we'll take your Madison Avenue marketing techniques and we will use them to mock you.
Well, I will say though, your point about New Flesh getting it a little more than Artal Saurians is it, and for the reasons you give, that they weren't inspired by the Sprawl, they were inspired by Hardwired and Bruce Sterling and stuff, but the things that like Case, Case is a lowlife and he's out of the game because someone gave him a virus that damaged his nervous system to the point that he couldn't hack anymore. And they fixed that. And when they fix that, they decide he's such a liability that they're going to scrub out his pancreas and his liver so that he can't process the heroin he's addicted to, so that he can't even be an addict, right? Like, I mean, and then you later find out, spoiler alert for folks, that the guy that hired him isn't even a real person, right? Like he's just sort of this person that someone shoved a personality onto the top of. And so all of those are very New Flesh ideas, right?
Eventually you end up in the third book, right? Because there's 3 books in the Sprawl novels. Now, the Sprawl is a wider series of stories, one of which is Johnny Mnemonic. And I will not spoil it, but I will encourage anybody in the audience to read the short story before you watch the movie, and you will be amazed. They basically hollowed out. I mean, there are elements in the movie, I guess, but it's really not the same at all. And it is very much more like a scenario out of New Flesh than anything you would see in a Hollywood film.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually, I'll give you a hint. They actually replace his teeth. Now, that doesn't sound very high tech, but the implications are nightmarish based on what that makes him a part of by that point. And the irony is that it's the people who don't have tech who are doing some of these transhumanist things because it's their only way to fight back. So having an unmodified body suddenly becomes a status symbol. It's kind of interesting. But yes, it was Gibson who gave us Razor Girls and all this other stuff. Even though, as he pointed out, nobody offered him anything from our Thalsorian games. They kind of ripped him and hardwired off. And by 1992, you had Snow Crash, and already cyberpunk had become kind of something that could be treated as a box that you could put certain kind of writings. What they would call the mirror shades group, that you could put these writings in a box.
Well, and Snow Crash adds a whole nother element to it, right? Because that's mimetic. Well, initially it's very cyberpunk, but eventually it becomes this, this treatise about how you can have a mimetic virus that's been around for millennia, right? And
exactly.
We don't know that that's not scientifically valid at this point, right? I mean, we certainly expect that there are certainly some things like that we carry on, and to what level is it biological, right? Like,
can you clarify? Do you mean like a sort of idea or ideology that remains ingrained on us? Or what do you mean?
The core concept of Snow Crash is that, in the burgeoning moments of civilization, that there was an actual biological mutation that allowed certain ideas to stick in the nervous system, and that basically over time this group figures out how to weaponize that. And then they find out that the ancients found out how to weaponize that. It's just they didn't have the distribution of it, right? And so basically, it's sort of the secret history sort of idea, but it's applied to this very cyberpunk concept. But
I think that makes a lot of sense, because if you, for example, many real doctors are analyzing how for example, our digestive systems influence our mind. If you're feeling fine over down here, you're probably going to have a very clear, sound mind. But the people that did the most harmful things, they are usually very prone to hysterical choices or choices that could seem too outrageous for the let's say the sound, rational mind. So that's what will be one way of attacking the system, like feeding people something that messes up their digestion in this case, and then they are more prone to following certain ideals or ideologies.
Well, I'm talking well outside my expertise here, but I believe I saw somewhere an article that they had found a nerve cluster that is essentially like a second, brain clump that's in your digestive tract. And so, I mean, we know that hangry is a thing, right?
And it's connected.
Interesting.
Our brain in our gut is connected by a nerve.
Yeah.
Directly.
I mean, which makes perfect sense, right? Because, I mean, the problem with humans is that our brains are designed so that, like, our babies are useless for a long period of time. And then we have to consume, so much to keep our brain going that, we don't fit the normal hunting cycle of an animal our size. We could be herbivores if it weren't for our brains, right? There's a lot of interesting, interplay there, and biology and society, have to go hand in hand, because and the problem is that we just don't know, because we haven't seen a society that came from another biology, right? And so we don't know to what degree it affects us. But I think the idea of cyberpunk and transhuman cyberpunk especially is about escaping that, right? Like once you change your biology enough, then what happens to your society, right? Like if enough of your people become insect people, what does that do, right? Do they form their own society? Do they, what would that look like, and
That
so
also
So the
highlights.
third Sprawl novel, right?
yeah, exactly.
Mona Lisa Overdrive. So again, this comes back to New Flesh being distinctly different. New Flesh includes the notion of beings beyond ordinary understanding, and that once we begin to change as humans, we can perceive voices and entities beyond ordinary perception, which may or may not be real. And New Flesh allows for that because, after all, this is a reality for Interzone.
And
It
it's
is a place in between, and so it's
yeah.
not just body modification. It's not just transhumanism. It is things that are truly not human, reaching back into the human world.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's a little sub rasa idea in New Flesh too, that like how much do the machinatores determine what they bring, right? Like do they bring things that they know will have a certain effect, and just they how much agency is there, like from the people that summon them and say I want this thing? Does it come back and say, well, there were 18 of these, but we picked the one that's going to do the most damage or the least damage, or that's going to make them more likely to do this thing we want them to do in the future? They're creatures outside of linear time. There's no telling what they're capable of, right? Like these are literally devil's deals that these people are doing, and they're doing it for this short term profit motive or the short term competitive advantage, and they have no clue what the things they're dealing with want or what the ultimate effect of it would be. And I think if you engage with that, in a campaign over time, and just show that these things don't have our best interest in mind, right? And even the people that are dealing with them don't have our best interest in mind. So, those things certainly couldn't, right? Even if they did exactly what they were told to do. But yeah, if you ask a non human thing to go find something for a human to use, you don't know what you're going to get back. How much of it is going to be for human use, how much of it's going to be for something else. And maybe they get everything they get from the same place, right? Like they just go to the future that they want, and they bring stuff back from that and say, here you go, I found this. And they just know that the more they do that, the more inevitably humanity is going to veer in that path, right?
What
So
you
yeah, there's a lot of
mentioned
neat ideas like that.
about time is very interesting, very tricky, you could even say, because, for example, right now we are talking with two people from the future. Are you aware of that? We are talking to Miguel and
Yep.
Sylvia that
Yep.
are
Yeah,
hours ahead of us, right?
yeah.
So we're people from the past talking. Miguel, Sylvia, tell me something interesting about the future.
It's
It's
raining.
raining.
In the future, it's starting to rain.
Yes, and thundering. And I'm gonna go to bed. I'm going to pull my Avenger. In the future, I'll be asleep.
oh dear.
But I will leave you
Well,
with a team. Okay, I will leave you guys with that. So, are we starting to get closer to what was described in Cyberpunk? But where is the punk?
I think we're starting to get close to what's portrayed in the Book of the Revelation, but that's a different talk.
well,
That's
who's to
that's
say that
Elohim, not New Flesh.
who's to say the two are not the same thing, right?
Oh, it could be.
Which is the same thing. Wait, what? I missed that. What did you
Oh,
say, Judd?
I said, who's to say that the Revelation and Cyberpunk aren't the same thing, right? Like every technological door we kick open that we don't really think about the effects of could be the one that leads to the terminal event. And we do more and more of that as we go, and we always tell ourselves, oh, we'll fix it in post, right? Like we'll figure out what nuclear arms mean, we'll figure out what space race means, and we'll bring ourselves along. But we've also created a world where the very smartest of us have created systems that the very average of us cannot maintain. And more we're creating a world where the people that by and large live in the world don't understand and cannot manipulate the world in the way that the people that designed it, could. And, plus or minus our educational system, it's getting worse. We always knew that knowledge was power, but now it's being hoarded. We are charging people to miseducate them, in order to assure that certain clusters of people have the true facts, or the most access to technology, or the best concepts. And this AI thing is just going to make it worse, right?
Well, are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street the megacorps, the emerging megacorps of a bleak, cyberpunk future?
Possibly, but in Cyberpunk, they never really talk about the finance part of it. For all we know, there's a BlackRock in Cyberpunk, right? And it just
It's
maintains
implied.
all of the, yeah, exactly. It just maintains all of these relationships. But yeah, the corporate wars, the idea that corporations get bigger than governments, that's unlikely to happen. And the way they conceive of corporations is unlikely, because there's just no point in it, right? Like, it does not serve a corporate interest to have to maintain a school district, or to keep mass transit going and things like that. It's just not worth it. They like the government handling that.
Works in fiction. It's cooler.
Well, and that's why I like that there's the council, right? In New Flesh, it's like half Morocco, and then it's half these invaded corporations, right? Which is more or less like Interzone. They were like, oh, we're going to let the Moroccans be Moroccans, but we're also going to stomp on them whenever we want to, right? And so, yeah, there's also that, and the democracy now and all that. There's that level of it too. There's a lot of meat. There's a lot of meat to that setting that people could play with, that doesn't necessarily jump right out at you.
A lot of the ideas came from Burroughs, not actually Cyberpunk. So that's why it's obviously different. And Cronenberg, of course.
Yeah, the way I found New Flesh, I found it through your Giallo, I guess. But what I liked most about it is you released it right at the time Atlas Games broke everyone's heart with that horrible third edition of Over the Edge. That edition was so bad that I'm like, thank God, like, now that the heroin isn't hitting, at least we have, the mescaline or whatever.
I purchased that one by mistake. Or actually, no, they sent me that one by mistake. I ordered it from Atlas Games. They were supposed to still have the first edition in print.
Yeah.
I think at their own store, but they sent me the second edition, and then I complained about it. They were supposed to send me the first edition, but
the second edition, that's the one with the lady with the noose on it.
Sorry.
That one's still fine. The guts.
No, that's the second edition I meant. Yeah, I ordered the second one, and they sent me the third.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got brutally ripped off.
Yeah, no, I never read it. I just
third edition Over the Edge is just it's Jonathan Tweet just completely losing his way, or it's us growing up and Jonathan Tweet not growing up. I can't decide which it is, right? Like,
was third edition done by someone else, or it was some people?
No, second edition was kind of a revamp of it. But first edition was kind of an amalgam. It's mostly Jonathan Tweet, but I think Robin Laws and some other people were in his game, and yeah, so they all sort of lazily contributed various things to it.
So who did the last one?
The last one was Jonathan Tweet. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He got back to it.
But he did it. He did it during the 2016 election season, and it is 100% culture war infected.
Okay.
And it makes me wonder, were we just less sensitive to it. And it's always been postmodern, right? Like it's described as postmodern horror. So, you know, and fair enough, it really is. But yeah, I guess we had
I think it was different.
more sympathy with it back then.
I think
Right?
no, I think it was different. I think the people themselves they were different in the early 2000s. The
Yeah.
woke, the guys who are now woke at the time they weren't as crazy. They weren't as insane.
Yeah, they were punching up in the 90s, right? And now they're just
Yeah.
punching to the left and right and down and anywhere but up, right? Like they think they're still rebels, but they're, sitting on top of everything. You're not the
They're bitter
rebel.
old men shouting at the sky.
Exactly. You are not the rebels if every major media outlet and every corporation agrees with you, right? Like you're not the rebel.
And even governments as well, considering there can be some serious punishments if you step out of line.
That's true. Yeah. Well, shout out to our boys in the UK.
Yeah.
I just saw that some people were getting arrested for playing video games, visual novels that the wokesters consider to be inappropriate, and now they are arresting people for playing video games. A Norwegian man. Mm-hmm. He's facing 3 years.
They've jailed a guy in Texas over a meme.
That's true. And it was a meme that they went on later to do themselves with no consequences.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a real dog's breakfast when the DA shows up in the courtroom and tries to explain this one.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder when the courts have to test all these UK issues, how that's going to break out, right? Like, are the courts broken enough that that all of this weird prosecution is going to hold, or are they going to say, "What are you people doing?" And if
I think will eventually
English
happen,
common law blows up, the West can be screwed if that makes.
I think the Uber judiciary model will be broken soon. I really do, because they're doing everything wrong they could possibly do to piss off enough people that people will stop worshiping the black robes and they'll say, you know what, fuck these people.
Yeah.
We don't have to do what they say. And that will be what breaks the system because, of course, in the U.S. at least, they actually don't have the authority to enforce their own orders. They depend on the other components of government to do so. Particularly the executive, if the executive says, yeah, I'm not enforcing that one, there's literally nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, and if they consistently screw the executive is going to be like, yeah, I'm not taking your calls anymore. And
exactly. So I'm going to issue an executive order, and I'm going to tell you when I will enforce your orders, which means never if you're not Supreme Court.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But.
I think it will if the Congress isn't prepared to go ahead and do something. They've needed to do something for decades, and they haven't. They've always kicked the ball down the road because it's much easier to rip people off than it is to actually do real work.
Well, let's avoid controversy.
Did I just say something very cynical about politicians?
Mexico, Abraham?
I was just going to tell you that
politicians.
The major point now in Mexico, I don't know if you have heard of a guy, this science fiction YouTube called Carlos Manso. Carlos Manso. No. He was a great major. He was probably one of the only non-corrupt people trying to run their city.
Oh, maybe I have heard. Yeah, maybe I have heard a bit about this. But yeah, please do go on.
He got unalived. Yeah, and we all know who did it. A certain woman in power. If you look into Mexico as a president, like right, the science fiction YouTube, you know who did it. So it looks like in December there's going to be something big because people they know that the system doesn't work. You cannot play with someone that changes the rules constantly and then applies penalties to you when you can apply penalties to the other person. So there's probably going to be something very big this December. That's all that I can tell you. And we're not talking about how we say, playing nice with them.
Oh,
yeah, we shall see. You cannot say much of this.
Just don't do it on January 6th, because man, I'm so tired of hearing that date. I mean, Anywho, next topic, Miguel, save us from our cynicism with your unique light and joy.
It's midnight. Don't expect, don't
Hey,
expect
what about
anything.
stays in Vegas? Yeah, tell us.
Stays in Vegas. Well, no one bought it yet. I'm joking.
I do.
Not, but not
It's
much.
because you didn't put Elvis in the book. See, Miguel, I told you,
Uh,
man.
Yeah, maybe.
well, all you have to do is make the first supplement once in future, right? And then
There
you're
you go.
gold. Yeah.
I guess it's a very niche thing, but in general, we are having very bad sales lately.
I will
I have
say
no idea.
whenever I'm in discussion groups, everybody is kind of bummed about the whole tax change situation because you know uh, folks want to follow you around and get your stuff. So yeah, we just need to wave the flag and let them know where to do that. Which is Lulu and Itch.
Yeah,
Is that
I
thinking?
don't. I'm not sure if that's the problem. Well, not yet, of course. We are already having very low sales, and we haven't yet down the store. So I don't think. I doubt it will change a lot when
Hmm.
we. If it changes a lot, we'll be selling nothing because it's exactly at that point.
What you
So
need, I think, is to get somebody, and I won't say their name, Ginger, to put flyers on all of the cars at Game Boy Con with your
yeah,
with your
yes.
website, and
Yeah.
then there'll be a bounty to go to your website. That is the most ridiculous thing that has occurred in gaming, and that's saying a lot because gaming has a lot of ridiculous things occur.
So do you think it was the one uh, vendor himself?
Nah, I can't see how it would be. I mean, it was only in the same town he's in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
It
think
is.
probably what happened, and this is just me guessing. I think he went to Kinko's and made a whole bunch of copies, right, to give out to various people at church groups, and he left some of them there by accident. And the people were like, "Well, what do we do with these?" And somebody was like, I think the Game Hole Con is happening this weekend. We should just go give them to those people, and they'll know what to do with them. And I think that's what happened. I think that Venger is completely innocent.
So the Kinko's guys are the
I think so. Yeah, I
are the
think I
guilty
think
party.
Kinko's of Sun Prairie has a lot to answer for right now.
Well, it wasn't anything illegal, I think.
Right.
The public
It's
implied
not
it.
illegal. It's not unethical. It's not
No,
something that wasn't done a million times that weekend by other people in the dealer's room, right? Like it's such a non-issue, right? But
who
they
was
Barbara Streisand affected the hell out of it,
who
didn't
was
they?
actually complaining about that? Were the guys at the convention, the organizers?
Yeah, it was somebody I think got to their car or their
Hmm.
girlfriend's boyfriend's car or whatever, and was like, "Oh, what's this on the windshield?" And they were like, "Oh, heaven forfend is a picture of Venger throwing up the horns." And yeah, and then I don't know why they took this flyer to someone else, and that was the person was like, "I will pay a bounty of $1 a
Well,
piece,
yeah, I
up
remember
to a
that. Yeah.
hundred dollars, up to a hundred
Yeah.
dollars." And this is where the Kinkos people are like, "Can we get the copy machine fired up quickly enough to make all of those $100?" And was it $100 per person, or was it just 100 total? I mean, I feel like we don't know enough about this bounty.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think it wasn't very explicit. I think it was total. Yeah, I think it was up to a total of $100.
See,
So
that's sad, but it's also a bigger budget than I expected. But this is
yeah,
before the government shutdown started hitting WIC vouchers, so maybe. Man, I'm being saucy. You can tell it's Friday, can't you? Daddy's had a long week, people. If you're watching this, wondering what's wrong. So yeah, poor Avenger. But he's good at that kind of promotion because he took 100 flyers. Let's say, right? Let's say the guy magically knew that there were 100 flyers out there, and he spread them around Gamehole or Gary Con or whichever one it was, and that would have reached maybe 30 people, but the whole hubbub about it. He didn't even have to send us all flyers. We went and looked to see, like, what does the flyer look like? Like there are people on the other side of the planet that were like, "Oh, tell us about this vendor that so offended everyone." And I like to think that it made national news somewhere. I know it didn't, but I would like to think that, right? And but they Streisand affected it, right? Like by bringing up, how offended they were by it. They put it in front of like 10 times more eyes than it would have been in front of otherwise. I just hope none of those, scuzzy people show up at VentureCon, because I'm not playing Pony Finder. I don't care. I will play Pony Finder once, but I will play it very aggressive. I will play the most aggressive pony you have ever seen. And I will ruin that game. It will not. Friendship will not be magic. Magic will be magic, and it will be dark magic, dark horse magic. I can only imagine what goes on in a Pony Finder game.
Is that still a thing?
Yes, it is. Also, Pugmire is a thing, which as more of a dog person, I can at least respect. And
I like Pugmire. That I have all of the books are pretty good. Like I didn't find any political agenda. Maybe it didn't look hard enough, but it's just dogs and cats fighting each other, like having intrigue.
Oh, so the cats are the bad guys.
About that.
No, that's the thing. Factions, separate factions. You have the dogs and the cats, but the bad guys, there are bad guys, there are dogs, there are bad guys, there are cats, but they are kind of like different species interacting with each other. But it's very fun. I like the.
And it's played seriously. Like
you can play it however you like. If you want to play it comedy, if you want it. My favorite mode is a combination of grit and comedy. There are deaths, there are dark things, but there's also like a picaresque humor.
Yeah, it's deadly, but it's also dogs playing poker, right? So
I've heard about this, and I'm saying Mithril bestseller. Okay, so this is.
Have you thought about a red game where you play
dogs,
animals of some sort?
Not really. No, I hate that stuff.
You gotta pick it's going to rise or fall on the animal you pick. And dog people are not going to buy cat games, and cat people are going to buy dog games. So fish is very
bad. To do it, but if I didn't, it had to be cats, of course.
I still say fish, man.
That would only work if the cats were evil.
Of course, the cats are. All cats are evil.
If you played Goldfish, it would be great, because every session would be a one shot, because they only have like 2 hours of memory. So like you literally every session you can't remember what happened in the last session. So you would just start every session like, does everyone remember what happened? And then if they say yes, you say forget all that, because you don't know.
That's a good game for me. I forget about everything anyway, so I don't have to role play that part.
If someone's keeping notes, if someone's keeping notes, you dock them XPs. You're like, no, what are you doing? The adventure is always just like, what is that thing just past the glass, and why does it keep poking on the side of the world? I mean, you would run out of adventures, I think, but you never know. Like, people might be into it.
There's a bunch of rat games, right?
Mouse Ritter and Mouse Guard, and I think there was Mouse Guard was a comic series, and
but I have the box set because they sent it to me for review a long time ago.
It's not a bad game, as I recall. It's kind of an easier version of Burning Wheel.
Burning Wheel,
yeah. Mm-hmm. What? I think that's kind of where mostly it came from. Although, anytime like The Wind in the Willows comes on, cable, like someone will make a game based on, So yeah, and there are some pretty good ones. There's I forget the OSR one. Say it's called Wilderlands Adventure. Does that sound right? Skirmisher Press, I think, is who publishes it now. But I think Beyond Belief Games does one as well. If I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, there are quite a few that are basically Watership Down or Rats of Nim sort of ideas. Mouse Guard is interesting because it takes place in Michigan, so all of the species are species that are native to the more or less I think where the comic artist grew up. And yeah, they do things like they know that they're bears and stuff out there, and that they're bad. They're a bad deal if they find you. So they just sort of have these things where they put fake scents up to make people think that other bears are in the area and stuff. It's really neat how if you were a smart rat, what would you do to protect your territory? And it's mostly to use the kaiju against each other, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
But,
when it comes to animals in tabletop RPGs, it all depends on how you handle things, right? Because you can handle them with a certain logic within the fiction, but sometimes certain people want to have like this. Well, there's no other way to say it differently, like a fairy fantasy where everybody wants to do yap, to yip and yap and do their stuff.
I know.
So
I know what yiffing is. Do I want to know what yapping is?
I have no idea what we're talking about.
You don't want to know.
It's better if you don't better not to picture it, but it's probably what you can imagine, right? When they do certain things, and certain private things.
There is a great if you go look for it. It's Bob Uecker. At some point, they put Bob Uecker and a bunch of other baseball commentators into the same hotel as a furry convention, and it's some baseball game, and it's in the mid innings, things are slow, and Bob Uecker just starts talking about the furry con, and it is just watching a normal person struggling to understand what a furry con is all about, but because it's Bob Uecker, it's hilarious. So and apparently now a baseball team this season got booked twice in the same hotel as a furry convention, and they thought it was something that the league was doing to them or that their management was doing to them, and unfortunately I think they did well in the games, and so now they're I think chasing that furry high, which is never good.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the season's over now, so
that's all very insane for me. I have no idea how that thing started even. The furry thing.
It only takes one from any group, from any faction. You only need one person infiltrated in a particular group, and they start to spread the idea around. Hey, maybe we should do this.
Pop, pop, pop. Oh.
Hey guys, I love this Star Trek, but maybe we should get weird sex stuff into it. Like, why are we doing this? And Slashfic was born. Yeah, there's nothing an infiltrator cannot ruin in geek circles. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard is probably the best example of that, right? But I guess less said about that, the better. But oh, Mark's gone quiet. What's on your mind, Mark?
I'm just listening to the flow, man.
You're letting me dig. You're like, I'll let him dig until he's about a half a mile under the bedrock, and then
I'll just drop it in on top of it.
Yep. All you need's a head start.
Yeah.
So what's coming up, Miguel? What are you working on? What's your next, other than the Elvis supplement?
I have a different answer from the usual. I have no idea.
Oh.
I don't know. Well, I've been working on something, but it's not a new thing. I've been changing a few things on Savage Swords. The art, basically.
I've kind of been going
more nudity. I hope.
Probably not. No, I'm just removing the AI stuff and trying to replace.
Oh, shoot.
With, yeah.
I mean, I guess the end of is it End of Empire? Is that right? No, it's End of
Twilight.
Innocence. Twilight
And
of
the
Empire.
Twilight of Empire, yes.
Are you thinking of doing something more overtly swashbuckly at some point? Like, a little more.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Red Pirates.
When we published the Twilight of Empires, there were obviously people were asking about
Yeah.
pirates, and I said, well, you can play pirates in this, but it's not really the right time for pirates. But yeah, maybe.
You
Have
know,
you seen Cursed Captains of Cthulhu or Cthulhu?
no.
Have you ever watched the cartoon Pirates of Dark Water?
Yes.
I have.
Loved it.
It's
Loved it.
that. It's exactly that, but with the mythos. Imagine that the bad guys are the
Ah.
mythos and they're cultists. Really good.
When I was watching Pirates of Darkwater, I always thought this is Talos Lanta the cartoon. Like it reminded me so much of that, and it's probably because if you held them down and lightly twisted their arm, they would both admit that like Jack Vance was a major inspiration for both of them, right? And so that's probably why it has that feel. But yeah, that was a really good show, and of course it was doomed, right? Because it was too good. And what was the sci-fi when the Galaxy Rangers? I loved that show, and it was doomed because it was too good to be a after school cartoon show.
The 80s had some incredible things. 80s and perhaps early 90s, but here in Mexico, we used to receive all of those cartoons from the US, and we loved each and every one of them. And we got so disappointed whenever they canceled the shows.
Oh, same here. Yeah, and man, I remember I'm of the age where you had to plan your Saturday, right? Because you could only watch the one show and you had to figure out with your brothers. In my case, like what were we going to watch of the three options, right? And yeah, it was it was it was more religious than the UN, I think.
Portugal, we had one option.
Yeah, the one it was just some Spanish show about kids on
Yeah,
bikes, right?
There was that, of course. But in the 80s, there was two channels, but usually the cartoons were just one of those. The other one was more
And you
information.
guys got a lot of Japanese shows earlier than we did, it seems like, because you guys got like Monkey Magic and then Seven Cities of Gold and Ulysses. Is it 51, 52?
And one of the most famous shows, Knights of the Zodiac, Saint Seiya. That was the thing.
Yeah. And we
whoa.
never got that, as far as I know, in the U.S. until
you get two
I
versions.
got into anime.
The watered down version and the American. It's basically they did like a United States cartoon based on the Knights of the Zodiac, but it was horrible. Like, do you even find videos making fun out of it? I don't know. They, the typical thing that the children are going to turn violent because they see the knights fighting each other. Oh no.
Yeah, in a way that they wouldn't if they saw the Three Musketeers, right? Like I've never understood that. Like, admittedly, watching a lot of Sherlock Holmes did make me want to solve mysteries, but at no point was I like, oh, I love all these war stories. I think I want to go to war. It takes a huge jump in logic for you to do that, right? Like, I would like to watch this from here, like, nice safe distance.
Well, I don't know. Lately, it seems that kids are more easily influenced by stuff.
Well, yeah, this is. Well, I wonder if that's true or if we're just becoming our grandparents, right? We're like, those kids today, where they're.
I don't know.
No,
they are cutting their
TikToks and their funny dances.
They are wanting to. They are changing their pronouns and they are changing their gender. So I don't know.
Well, my parents
that
used to
seems like
always.
a very radical thing to do.
Yeah, my parents used to always say, because we'd kid them about being from the generation with the hippies, right? And they were like, the hippies was like 5% of our generation, right? I wonder what percent, these people are, if it's allowed, we hear 8%, right? It's the loud 8%. And if that's true, then maybe we're better off than we think we are. I mean, like Matt Tapp and his crew, are doing cool gaming, free of all that sort of stuff, off on their own, and more or less, and I haven't quite uh, heard this from him, but I get the feeling that he sort of did it on his own, right? Like there wasn't like a mentor or anything until later, right? And when he, started meeting the people he was reading about. But I think they just sort of figured it out on their own that like, what if we did it this way and it would be a lot more fun? And so I hope that the kids are going to be okay. But certainly, for most of the free world, there aren't going to be a whole lot of the kids, right? Because I think almost every country has a declining birth rate, and it's below replacement in,
Mhm.
but just a handful of countries.
You can't have too
So,
many peasants because they could revolt.
no, yeah. And
Well,
I
but
mean,
in some countries they are importing the peasants from other places.
well, yeah, there's that too, but that doesn't work out in the end either. I mean, we've seen these shows before, right? Like there's nothing new under the sun. It's just got different fashion. But
Yeah.
I don't know why we insist on repeating the same mistakes over and over.
It's because people need to figure out when someone is trying to control you. It's always about control. When you figure out who and for what purpose is controlling you, then you start to figure out, oh, that's what they are doing this. Like in the case of those cartoons, there is an obvious attempt to soften people, to make them non-violent. No, no, fighting the bad guys. No, no, have Thundercats go, laugh about this also random moments, and just have fun. We'll take over from here.
I kind of hope that's true just because I would like to be in the room when Captain Planet failed to see them all just crying. Like, like, why don't people like this show? Like, because it blows. That's why. Like,
I never liked it.
Captain Planet had some very interesting episodes. In that show, people actually died, and they died from overdose, and they got shot by the gangs. Like they
was
portrayed
any of them
some.
that redheaded kid? Because you'll notice in the '80s the
Mhm.
redheaded kid, and he's
He was the
usually
main
associated
character.
with the fire element. Yeah, he'll always be the asshole. Like, and Eric in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Eric was always right about everything he talked about. It was just he said it the wrong way, right? Like Dungeon
Uh,
Master's, using
but
us.
Eric
Like,
had
no,
black
he's
hair, right?
not. Yeah,
Eric, the
this
paladin
is
guy.
true. He does skip the track, but yeah, there's always the odd man out in your 5-man crew, right? And he's the jerk, but he almost always ends up saying stuff that people are like, "Wait a minute, yeah, like he's making sense." But yeah, but Captain Planet, that kid was like, and I'm like, why did you even pick this guy? But the answer, of course, is he's the fire guy. He's always going to be like that, right? Because that's what fire's like. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and you have the hard kid that, oh, let's be peaceful, let's find a peaceful solution, and you have like the wind that, oh, I'm so dynamic, I am Asian, I am from the wind, I have that windy thought,
yeah.
free like the wind.
Well, and there's a lot what do they call it, the elemental, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Fantastic Four. There's a whole bunch of those elemental team ups like that, and it's just I guess it comes from the personality traits come from the four humors, right? And
Mhm.
so yeah, at some point, cartoon people decided, hey, this is a this is a good way of just sort of rule of thumbing a 4-man team. Even I guess the A team, if you get down to it, probably map to that, right? I mean, BA is obviously Earth, and then Murdoch is maybe water, what do you think? What's Murdoch? Is he air? What's crazy?
Well,
What's the crazy element?
he's a flying man, so it could be. It
That's
could be
true. Yeah, he is the pilot. Yeah, that perfectly. I've been watching a lot of that on H&I, just sort of accidentally of late, and man, they're fun.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
just
like
fun
it.
episodes.
And it's a very a very role playing party. Very much what a role playing party works. How it
Oh
works.
yeah,
The way they work.
Chancellor GM ran 2 episodes of Soldier of Fortune, based on the
The TV, yeah,
Thunder in
that's
Paradise show,
yeah.
and what scared me was that he would set up the situation, and then we would come up with these plans that were insane, right? And then we would do them, and they would work out. But what was weird is that we thought we were making this insane plan that, like, and then he would say that is what happened in the episode, and we're like, what? Like, like it makes me wonder if I'm just pre-programmed by TV, or if the writers of that show were just insane,
Yeah.
or a little of both, right? Like it worries me that we came up with the same stupid answer for how to handle this situation.
It's probably a bit of both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
because if you create a certain shape of a keyhole, only one key will
that's
fit, right?
that's a good point. That's a good point. There are only so many ways of tricking the government into thinking that this tugboat is in fact your super thing. But it was a fun time. But that game system, just got out of the way and let us have a good time. But I'm hoping that he'll eventually get to the point where he makes his own episodes and just takes off on his own, because Thunder in Paradise deserves more stories.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's very, very heavy-handed. It's very
Well,
80s, late
the
80s, early
problem,
90s too. Yeah,
the problem is I cannot find it. I think it's on YouTube, but it's very
yeah.
quality is not.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think the problem is that the rights to the IP went to weird places, and so I don't
Mhm.
think anyone knows who owns it at this point.
I remember that show, in fact, was shown on Portuguese TV,
I
but
can
for
see
some
it because it
reason
has
I
a
didn't.
boat. It has a boat in it,
Yeah,
and
There you go.
there is
I
a kind
didn't
of
watch it.
Discovery's theme to it.
And there was I think at the time wrestling was kind of popular here, so probably that was also the reason
I,
they were
you
showing.
know, I wonder what countries where wrestling isn't popular are like. Like, they have to just be very sad countries. Like,
Here, the popularity
I'll
didn't
bet
last
you
long.
Sweden hates wrestling. Oh no, Tor Johnson was a wrestler. Never mind. Yeah. Who do we think hates wrestling? What country?
The French,
Ooh,
I think the French,
I
but
cannot say I've heard of any famous French wrestlers.
yeah,
You may be right.
all of the French names I'm thinking of are French Canadian. Yeah. So yeah. And that's sad, because man, it would be great if they had like if the French athlete's thing was he had the big handlebar mustache and the stripy strongman costume with the leotard and all that. That'd be the best. Like, I mean, you could do it as like a Yukon Joe kind of thing too, but it'd be so much better if it was like Marcel Marceau, only he's jacked to the nine, right? Like,
or
and
not.
he's doing that. He's doing that like fake wall, and then the other guy sells it like there's really a fake wall there while he's miming it, and then he
Okay,
can't get
so
to him. Oh man,
we
Here in
should talk.
Mexico,
I
wrestling
want this more than France does. That's the problem.
was a bit like your initiation into manhood, because when you saw El Santo, El Mascarado de
Yeah,
Plata, that incredible wrestler, you were a kid, you were afraid of monsters. Oh, Dracula is going to get you, the ghosts, the mummies. And then you saw El Santo like wrestling with those disgusting zombies. Like, woo, you don't want them near you. But El Santo playing the headlock and doing all sorts of crazy wrestling moves to all of those monsters, and you're like, oh, I could do that. I could definitely do that. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to do that.
oh man, the Santos movies are amazingly good. Like, it's just the whole the whole monster fighting luchador thing. It just makes perfect sense.
Okay,
once you
something
see
else
it.
that I haven't watched yet. I think I have to
Oh,
watch it.
yeah.
So that's what, 70s, 60s?
Oh gosh, maybe earlier 50s. Is that what
It's
you
a bit
think?
earlier.
Yeah. Although I think you know there were certainly luchador movies into the 70s, right? Like monster fighting luchadors. And it seems like there's an indie movie company that made a whole bunch of like kind of schlocky movies recently, where they had like a cadre of them. Because I mean, luchadors more or less are superheroes, right? They've got the masks, and the masks are tailored to their personalities and stuff. So yeah.
We had movies since wrestling movies since the 60s or even before that. Oh, what is that sound? There is like
I think that's
that's Mark.
That's me just messing around.
Mark's
Okay,
getting a
okay.
call.
Yeah, we had it since the 60s. We had some pretty amazing wrestling movies. I don't know if it was the first wrestling movies, but I remember there was one in the 61. Mm, But when it comes to luchadors, what is amazing about them is that they always get the monsters with what is available. They don't have like a trademark weapon. They have, oh, did you have a vampire and you're wrestling against the vampire? Try to wrestle him onto the wooden piece of structure so that it goes through the heart. Those
Yeah.
are sort of things.
Well, I mean, and that's the way to do it, right? I mean, you can't be a monster hunter that's always carrying your stuff around with you. You have to adapt. Also, there's the Lovecraft variations when they were playing Tunnels and Trolls, and it was moving towards becoming Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes. They figured something out that was basically stated as a AK-47. If you empty a clip of an AK-47 into a vampire, it won't kill it, but it will slow it down. and and sometimes you can just use that to give yourself a little extra time to find something else. So yeah, I think if you body slam anything, it's not going to be happy about it.
You know what I like? The Conan logic. Conan the Barbarian, when he's fighting this demon and he doesn't know what to do. He's fighting inside of this room, inside of a castle, I think. There's the fireplace going. And the demon is about to attack Conan, and Conan remembers. Conan knows that the demons are affected by fire. They are also affected by silver. And what does Conan do? He takes a silver chest, and throws it at the demon so that it falls into the fireplace. So either the silver or the fire is going to affect the thing.
I mean, that's solid logic. Oh, RPG pundits in here. He's got. Is Red Room going to do a Luchadors RPG?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think what he meant to ask was when is the Red Room going to do a Luchadors RPG?
Well, is there any Luchadors? I don't know. I think there was one with wrestlers, but
did you say something, Miguel? I couldn't hear you. Did you ask if there were luchador tabletop RPGs?
Is there any? Yeah, is there?
Yes. There's actually a solo game and a normal game. The publisher is Head Cheese Productions. Head Cheese, where is he? Head Cheese, yes, and he has fighting luchadores. What's the name? But yeah, in Wrestler RPG, I'm not finding it right now, but it was by Head Cheese Productions, and it's a luchador game. You pick your mask as if it were your character class, and it gives you various powers and abilities based on your.
It seems like the hero system has a luchador supplement too, for champions, but it could.
It might. To be honest, there's so many supplements that came out for the hero system.
That's true. GURPS and Hero have a
role playing game for something.
Yeah.
I know that Weird Frontiers, which is the DCC RPG adjacent, basically part of the Goodman Games thing, they have a class called Luchador.
Let me show it to you. I have
Whoa, that's the.
I have that exact edition. I'm such a geek. Why did I pay for that?
I saw that and I thought that's a luchador game. Like it's like the Encyclopedia Luchador around.
That's Weird Frontiers.
Very, very.
It actually has a couple of interesting Mexican-themed classes. There's the luchador. Yeah. You can play a luchador in Weird Frontiers, but they also have one based on the Candy Skull theme, which I'm trying to remember what they call the character. But it's
Yes.
also Weird Frontiers class. And it's almost like a.
It's the calavera. It's not
the calavera, right?
The Katrina. It's Mexican art. You know, when you see people painted like skulls and like skeletons. It's this one.
Yeah. It's kind of Day of the Dead themed. And that's kind of what the calavera does. Is the calavera puts down the dead? They're a speaker with the dead.
Maybe you're talking about the Sin Eater, because the calavera is basically like a gunfighter necromancer. Imagine summoning undead with your guns.
Okay.
Something like that.
I'll allow
yes.
it. I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's some interesting classes. They're so. It's Weird Frontiers. Weird Frontiers.
While Pundit is here, I want to let him know that we ran a game of Gnome Murdered. I ran a game of Gnome Murdered set in the Star Trek universe, and a fun time was had by all. We put it up.
I know a guy who also played that.
Roger played, and Mar Hawkman played, and he is like Mr. Star Trek. Like, you know, he's the guy that's been doing the like every episode of TNG to kind of go over how you could use it, the ideas of it in an RPG. And so, yeah, it was amazing. Now, I did do a little bit of swerving. I gave them a 8-man crew and let them, you know, jump between them so that the losses would be manageable. And as they gained more gnome lore, the role got easier and easier to survive. But yeah, it was. Yes. Pundit's like, I haven't heard that name in a long time, and he's trying to bury it. No, they're some of Pundit's best games for me, at least, for my style are some of his early ones. I love Lords of Olympus too. Of course, you know I played a whole lot of Amber, and then Lords of Gossamer, and Lords of Olympus fixes a lot of little lingering things that are weird about the other two games. So, and I ran it at AmberCon, and I got the feeling it hurt some feelings because they're like, oh, the Pundit, he might accidentally tamper with us, or so. But we had a good time. I got people that showed up for it, and yeah, so.
Well, you know, same thing with some Avengers games that he's more or less forgotten about, like Blood Dark Thirst.
Exactly.
I thought that was a lot of fun. It's totally gonzo, but it was fun.
Yeah, he when I talked to him about it, he it's almost like he forgot who wrote it, which is a unique to Avenger sort of thing, I guess. But yeah, that game and the Outer Presence, I mean, they use that same system, for lack of a better. It's kind of a FKR sort of thing, right? He wouldn't put it that way, but
the Outer Presence was also very fun. I ran that one with Sylvie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically a B movie, right? With some mythos trappings to it. So, well, the people of Uruguay have good taste in Amber Lights, because
I never played Amber as well. I don't know.
It's a
I know
acquired taste. Like you'll get used to it, but it requires a lot of trust between the GM and you have to, as a GM, you have to be a very fair adjudicator, because if you you can't play favorites or any of that, because the game could allow you to do that, and you just have to stomp that out and make sure you don't do it. But it's really fun, and it's consequently super easy to play because of that. So. I keep meaning to write up some stuff for Lords of Olympus, because, I want to do the Apollonian Road, which goes through space, because of course it does. And then, yeah, just there's some other little things that I've added in some of the games I've run that I need to write up and send to Brett and or do on my own, because it's got an open license. So
Did he publish something else for Lords of Olympus?
Not yet. But that's the other thing is the Amberlacks tend to be a good value because you really only need the core book most of the time, right? Like the other stuff that you would traditionally have in a game line, it kind of falls to the group to kind of do, like scenarios. There's not really a way of doing a scenario, and there's not really a way of. No, you can do supplement books that have more powers or more things to consider. But yeah, it's a very fun game. But again, you have to kind of trust that everybody's adjudicating fair. So.
Well, I gotta go. A pleasure talking with all of you.
Yeah, same to you. Have a good
Later.
weekend.
Thanks.
You do.
Have a good one, man.
No, not well.
Sunday. Cult.
We'll see.
Cult
Yeah.
campaign.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Later.
See you then.
No, you should run that for us probably.
Yeah, at some point I probably should.
I think it trusts us enough for that.
Yeah, the thing is that it's really given to like campaign style play. You can play one shots in it, but it really hits its stride if you play a longer game with it. But
yeah, I imagine for that kind of stuff, it's a one shot is not really enough.
Yeah, and then once I've taken your diceless virginity, you'll start making only diceless games. Amazing.
So what,
Bye, Pundit.
Bye. So it's
Take easy, Pundit.
What do you use? Cards or nothing?
Nothing. Yeah, it's 100% comparison. What you have 4 stats that you spend points in, and basically you're given a budget of so many points, and you spend them on powers, stats, items, and then any worlds you control. And
I hate to say this, but what that reminds me of is collectible card games.
Not.
I mean, that's basically the principle behind collectible card games.
Yeah, it's similar.
Is that you tokenize comparison, and so you don't really need a source of randomness because tokens have a certain value and you compare them.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and the only X factor in it is that if you go over or under your budget, you get stuff, which is like good luck or bad luck, and usually most GMs will limit it, like plus or minus 10 points out of 100-point budget, and then that can play a factor, and then just the level of planning and whatnot you're putting into things, like how much trickery or how much control of the area that you're operating in you have, and that sort of thing. So those little fuzzy points are where, and you don't know the other person's scores, right? Like the scores are as secretive as possible past the initial auction. And I don't even auction, I do hidden bid. So you have no clue what the person next to you is capable of other than what they show you, right? And so with that what's the word, imperfect information kind of game, you have to risk to figure things out, right? Like, and it's really easy to get yourself to bite off more than you can chew. So but yeah, that is probably a topic for another day. My endless thoughts on diceless role-playing games.
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole episode just talking about diceless games.
Could be.
I have nothing to say about that, but you can take it. And
I don't think you have to have the kind of dice we associate with D&D. I don't think you require the exotic dice. There's been a lot of games that have been built around the good old, reliable, easily available D6, and they don't use anything else.
Yep, and it makes a great bell curve,
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of them are OSR games. I guess the most obvious example would be Traveller. Traveller was purely D6 based.
Traveller is craps turned into an RPG. More or less. I mean, yeah, you know that an 8 or higher is a harder thing to shoot than a 7
Well,
or below, right?
what's so interesting is it's very much like White Box in that it's a collection of systems put together into a game,
Yeah,
so that you could. I mean, objectively, they're not necessarily connected.
right.
They just happen to be part of the
And that
same game
seems
system.
to be what the OSR revamps of the games did was they took all the little systems and they're like, why are these different? And just homogenize them, right? Like we will use this same system as much as possible and only use a different system if it's necessary, right? Like
Well, I mean,
once we
that's
know
that's
how to
that's
roll
the
the
spirit
die,
of third
yeah.
edition, right? That's what third edition did. It
Third
said, "Wait a
edition,
minute,
third edition,
AD&D." Go
I
ahead.
think third edition was selling you feat books. That was what they wanted. They were selling you all those little add-ons and stuff, right? I mean, they did
So the thing
homogenize
is, all of
the
that came out of
resolution.
AD&D second edition, though. That's the
It
thing.
did, and second edition was doing that too, right? All those
Yeah.
complete halfling books and all that, like, and then you're buying
Non-weapon
this book,
proficiencies and all
yeah,
that. But what third edition did was it brought to the table the idea of, wait a minute, we have all these different systems and it sucks. Why don't we standardize things and make them make sense?
yep,
And since for classic example is armor class, since in the system, historically higher rolls were better, why is lower AC better? Now we know the real reason, which is that the combat grid was meant to be the default. And in the combat grid, armor class meant just that, armor class. And that's why we had umpteen million different polearms, because number one, Gygax was obsessed with them. And number two, because he could come up with a logical way to make all these, a Bardiche was genuinely different from a glaive in terms of armor class effects in the system. But then they went to, to hit AC 0, THACO, and all of that went out the window.
And I can't. But I did have this weird experience of going from the combat grid to THACO, and because the GM that I played AD&D under had that, the Dragon magazine as a giveaway had that little combat wheel thing that took the combat grid and turned it into, that little spinner wheel thing that you could use to line up, and he used that, meticulously, and so we never really, I never really had an experience where I was playing with with this anything other than the combat grid until it went to THACO. And then I didn't spend a whole lot of time in THACO land because by that time I was moving towards Palladium and Traveler and Gangbusters and all those gateway drugs, right? Like, Daddy needed his fix. And I landed
Exactly.
on Chill. I landed on Chill playing it a lot. And
People who played Chill loved it, even though my understanding is that the system had a lot of rough edges.
The system has a whole lot of rough edges, but it was basically the lure of that Hammer horror feel, right? Like that was more important than the system. You just sort of put up with the system. And that was the 80s, right? Like you put up with the system to play the game that was promised by the cover, right? And James Bond 007, people talked about that so highly, but the the percentage system was clunky. The way they implemented the criticals and all that, it was very hard to figure on the fly. So and like a lot of 80s games, it rose or fell on how well you hacked up your character sheet, because if you pre-calced the crits based on your character stats, it was a lot easier to play after that, right? But the person that designed the actual character sheet didn't have that problem, right? And so they just made it with just the pure stats. If they had redesigned the character sheet a little more, they'd have had a lot easier to play game on the hand.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the problem with, I think, percentile-based systems. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of basic role-playing. as much as I loved Call of Cthulhu back in the day, I always thought the game system underlying it was crap.
Well,
And we
it
would sometimes
Palladium,
house rule it and start rolling D6s instead,
yeah,
or change it up to roll D10s, because it was everything about it sucked. Your characters were always incompetent. The rules weren't always clear as to when you did or didn't need to roll. It really sucked. And
both
I
it
say this
and
as a guy who still has his original first edition box
yeah.
set. It's like it's not that I ever stopped liking the game, but it's like I realized as I played other games, it's like, you know what, this system really is not that good.
Yeah, well, and it and Palladium both definitely showed that like they had that D&D DNA, right? Like the stats were 3d6, right? Like why would you do that and then have it, So and I know for a fact that the Palladium game came from basically, Kevin Simbita bought the white box and was like, I can't make heads or tails of this. So he got together with Eric Witchkick and several of his gaming buddies, right? And they just sort of home ruled the hell out of it, and that became their system, right? And that was the case. That was the case with, I'm sure, the basic RPG system too. And Ken San Andre at Arnicon was talking about his experience. His experience was weirder because he got the white box, but he went to a game club and he showed up late. So he couldn't get in on the game that they were in the middle of playing. So he was like, hey, buddy, you mind if I read your D&D stuff? And he's like, oh, yeah, knock yourself out. And so he basically got an hour and a half to skim Dungeons and Dragons and try to figure out what he could glean off of it. And then he had to give it back, and then he went and played another game with those people. But in the back of his head, he's like, there's a game in there, but I don't think it's in that book. I don't think it's in that box. And so he just sort of developed Tunnels and Trolls from his first read, his skim read of D&D, and then figuring it out. But he's like, yeah, I want to use D6s, because it just makes more sense to me. But the other thing he thought was hilarious, or what he said and when Griff was interviewed, it was hilarious, is that he's like, there was a wisdom stat. And I'm like, your job is to go down in a tunnel and fight monsters for treasure that may or may not be there. Wisdom has left the building. None of you have a wisdom stat, right? Like that's not even a thing that qualifies you for this job, right? If you had wisdom, you wouldn't do this. And so I thought it was hilarious that, and so he had to make his own spell system because he didn't get to the point where he could read the spells that were in D&D. He just sort of skimmed them. So that's why his spell system is so different and everything else. And so, yeah, all the initial games were just people trying to fix that mess that was the white box, and it was a beautiful mess, but it was hard to understand. And so a lot of people just fixed it, and that became their systems. I have no idea where Traveler came from. I would be very interested to figure out,
There is an entire book that Mongoose put out about, which, yes, I actually bought because I'm a geek again. And there's an entire book where they talk about that and how it came out of wargaming, because that was actually where they made their start. That's why they were called Game Designers Workshop. And they actually came out of a college program that was about simulation gaming. And
okay,
then they kind of created the system initially for a game called On Guard.
Oh, yes.
Which was,
I've got a copy of that. Like someone reprinted it recently.
And
yeah,
originally,
that's a very different game.
Yeah, it's quite different. And the reality is that Traveler almost arose over time. They saw what was going on with D&D. They saw what was going on in that space. They just saw it as an extension of what they already did. And that's why, if you have the little black box, and I do, it is so weird when you start reading it and you realize there are huge gaps here. But they took seriously the idea that either you would play a game where those gaps didn't matter, or you would fill them in yourself. That's why I say it's very OSR, because it's an incomplete game.
Yeah.
You have to supply the parts that aren't there. The whole business with the Imperium and everything else didn't actually come till later. The third Imperium,
Yeah.
all that setting, that, and for a lot of people that is Traveler, but the reality is that was an add-on from later, and that was actually an importation from their board games.
Right. Yeah. And in the Imperium board game, there is one human unit that is just insanely powerful, and it is because it is Mark Miller's unit, like from when he was a vet, or when he was in the military. He just ported his unit in and made it a super unit. I'm not sure you're supposed to use that actual counter in the game because it's so overpowered, but it certainly explains why humanity won, right? So, but I like the assumptions that Traveler makes, right? Like you can die in character creation. Well, there's a perfectly good reason for that. It's a gambling game, right? So that you don't cheese creating your character. But I also love that you can have a group of different ages, right? You can have a group where the people have different experience levels and stuff, and that none of that is as important as it is in other RPGs, right? You're more experienced, but you're older, you're a little slower, your stats, have eroded, and it just was a lot more practical in that regard, and I've always liked that because they never tried for balance because they're war gamers, right? If you get a balanced war game, you're probably not simulating anything that really happened, right?
Right.
Right.
And it's why they added, it's why they added what you could call war gamey elements to Traveler. Like, for instance, they fully embraced the notion of alternative systems. So there are actually multiple personal and ship combat systems. There's the default one that for instance, with ship combat, there's the default grid-based one, right? Mm-hmm. Which was actually came from a board game they had called that preceded Traveler, and they simply adapted that. But there's also the Trillion Credit Squadron system, which is purely based on numeric comparison. There's the range circle system, which I think is what most people find most popular because it's certainly easiest to play online. Personal combat, multiple systems again. Again, the default system, you had a grid. And if you took it a step further, you had a game. You could actually purchase this as a separate game, or you could use it as the personal combat system for Traveler. It was called Snapshot.
Yep.
And I have
Snapshot had a great cover. The cover for Snapshot was fun.
Very evocative. And it was based on action points. It even allowed for swearing because you had to spend all your action points on your turn. And if you didn't have enough action points to do anything useful, you had to swear because you could always swear away what was left of your action points. So we were cussing all the time.
So it was a marine simulator.
Yeah, but then same thing with the Starship combat, because eventually in basic Traveler, which was just a variation on Traveler, they put it in a book. Eventually, it became the Traveler book. There was a version of the Starship combat system that emulated the personal combat system, where again you had range bands, and so like your pilots,
right? Like, didn't you have like
that was one of the systems.
Yeah.
See, that was the original system, was grid paper and vectors. And your ship's G rating determined how much acceleration you could achieve in a particular round. But needless to say, that could create some really weird stuff when you're trying to draw it out on a big grid. It just didn't, it was clunky. So they offered these other alternative systems that, to be perfectly frank, probably worked better. I remember back in the day when I played Traveler, it was like a Frankenstein's monster of their alternative systems.
Well,
even today, I have a favored way of doing it. Yeah, so when you hear about somebody playing Traveler, one of the questions you get to ask them is, okay, did you use the planetary system from book 3 of the little black box, or did you use the one from book 6 Scouts? Did you use the range band personal combat system, or did you use Snapshot? I mean, that's how you really tell who's a grognard in the Traveler universe, because they know about these alternative systems.
Yeah.
They even had a wargaming one, because when they put out the Adventure 4 Broadsword, which was about a mercenary company and their ship, and they also had Book 4, which was their basically their mercenary supplement, which was really about Army and Marines, right?
Yeah.
Space Marines. They went ahead and came out with a system called Striker, which was intended to be used with 15 millimeter miniatures. And Striker was basically a war game. But it was, again, part of this. And again, I have that because I bought everything they had that I could get my hands on back then and could afford. So I still have Striker. I mean, now, I will say, once you get more into playing all kinds of games, you realize that some of these games that they put out, it's no wonder their sales volumes were low for some of them, because you don't really want to pull those out and play them in the middle of a role-playing game. It just breaks up the action.
Well, and
you can use Snapshot, for instance, but Striker, not so much.
You know, in White Book, it suggests getting out, what was it, Wilderness Survival from Avalon Hill. No, none of them ever did that. They used the map, but I don't think they ever actually used the rules, right? And there's debate out there, and I'm not going to weigh in because I don't know about how much they use chainmail, right?
According to Rob Kuntz, other than those first sessions, they just didn't. Yeah. And see, this is what really pisses off the Broser, because they're constantly being told by Sandy Peterson and Rob Kuntz, guys, we didn't actually do it that way. The way you're running it, we didn't actually do it that way. And they hate that. You know, they hate being told they're wrong, because they're all like under 30 and don't know any better. Well, Broser is the faux OSR. There, I said it.
It's getting late here as usual.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
On that note,
I'm not trying to interrupt you because I don't want to talk bad about the Bro SR. It's really late, and we're past the 2 hours stream, so.
Oh,
gotcha.
Well, yeah, by all means. Well, thank you for anyone that stood it out this far.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the RPG Pundit was like, "Hey, we got to get in on this." But always a good time.
Idea for lots of Olympus.
So think about swashbuckling. I don't know about animals. I don't know the animal one, but
swashbuckling is
and an Elvis supplement for.
Oh yeah, man, you got to do the Elvis supplement.
Yeah,
at least an adventure, right?
Hey, we're still waiting for something for the End of Innocence, and that's
there you go.
From me.
Oh yeah.
If my job would allow me, I'd finish Elohim, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, of course.
Now, is that how you say it, and you don't scream it because it's in all caps, right?
I know it's the freaky, edgy weirdness thing.
That's because it's internet. Right?
It's because the Old Testament was written in all capitals.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Because it was before the invention of lowercase, right?
There you go.
Okay, right. So see you Sunday, and or in the case of Random Museums, see you next week.
Alrighty. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.